sewing, cooking, and a culture class. At the end of those classes, they apply the knowledge that they've learned and obtained towards the sheep butchering. Next slide, please. As here you could see the work that the students have made. Most of them created ribbon skirts, 3-tier dresses, and shirts. And we hosted a little modeling fashion show at the elementary school to display their work. Next slide, please. Here you could see the 1st through 6th grade students participating in the cultural class that Mr. Russell provided. We went over several discussions in terms of becoming of age for both male and females. And a lot of the students that were in the upper 6th through 12th grade cooking classes cooked for the younger grade students. So once they were done cooking, everyone sat around and ate the food that their older peers made for them while they learned about the culture classes. Next slide, please. On to the robotics coding camp. We've had, go back please. We've had participants in the Newcomb, Shamrock, and Kirtland region where we have two instructors who have previously been a part of the community and are now graduates from San Francisco Stanford University. And so we bring in those contractors to help our kids as they've been in their place many years before. And here you could see the bulletin board that Newcomb created displaying the students' artwork. And from that coding camp, there was a competition towards the end. And go to the next slide, please. Here you can see the robotics champion team who received an award and a incentive from that robotics coding camp. Next slide, please. Another big part of our students doing these summer camps is preparing them for student leaderships with the Equity Council, where we were able to take 10 students to National Unity Conference. This consisted of high school and middle school students. And that is all for the award presentation. We've highlighted several areas where our students are acknowledged with the JOM program to include culture and language. And these summer camps that we've provided for them helps them, gain knowledge, skills, experience, public speaking in order to, be recognized at the national level. So I stand for questions.
What questions from the board? That's a very nice, you have a couple trophy there. Ms. Aspas.
Yes, I want to go back a few slides.
Ms. Aspas, which slides are you referring to?
It went by pretty fast, so I think it was maybe the third or fourth one from the end. Before that one. that one. So what's happening here?
This is Jonathan Russell, the Equity Council Supervisor. I can answer that question.
Fuentes to answer, please.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I heard the question. The question was what is happening here? This was an illustration of the coming
Mr.
up.
Russell, I'd like for Mrs. to answer. She gave the presentation. I'd like for her to answer.
Okay, so the question being asked is what is happening here. So we are providing students a coming of age demonstration of the Kinalda ceremony. And we have a contractor here who provided the cooking class for us volunteer to do that demonstration.
So, and I don't see this very clear. So, on the first slide, what is that? And then the second and the third.
Okay, so the first slide, Mr. Russell is holding up a Navajo basket and illustrating the components of that basket, the teachings, the knowledge, how to take care of it, how to keep it clean. Onto the second one, he's demonstrating the females coming of age massage part of the ceremony using the stirring sticks. And then in the third one, you see the contractor grinding materials in order to prepare in order to prepare the food for the cooking. We've also included grinding up herbs to make self-medicine for from those herbs, such as chi de congé.
So, on that third picture, and I'd really like him to I mean, this is something that's really lost, and it's great that it's showing back up, and the importance. I feel it's important to have this done, and so the grinding is you ground the food too, or is this the corn or the cake?
Yes, it's for the traditional food.
Okay, I've heard enough. And then what was this presentation, Mr. Wells, Board President? Or did this come on the agenda?
It's item 2, staff and community recognition for Johnson O'Malley. I don't.
Okay. Okay, I see it now. I was looking down on the reports. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President. Question I have, Mr. President, is do we know the specific outliers that were utilized to grade for the award?
Oh, this is Berlinda Yachty. If I may speak, President, Board President.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Board President, Vice President and Secretary, Board members, and Superintendent Carlson. The National JOM Committee have their own criteria, and they did not disclose or share how they have their grading, or however way they choose the winners. So however, we were the one school, one of few that were recognized for these programs we offer that Ms. Cientes is currently showing you. Thank you.
Okay, part of my question, Mr. President, if I may, is that it would have been nice, and obviously, again, it was stated that they don't know exactly what the qualifiers were or the outliers were for the judging, but the fact that they've done well certainly bodes well to the programs that they're providing. The day that I was up there, all the kids were participating, and it was very nice. So my point is that it would be nice to be able to try to improve on what we're doing, because I believe there's always room for improvement. But certainly congratulations to all of you and the effort that you guys are providing for our kids, and the opportunities, as well as the leadership. That's very important. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, Board President.
Yes, Ms. Aspis.
Ms. Begay, Dr. Begay.
I'm here, yes.
Okay, I noticed that there was a slide on there concerning or the robotics class, and I find that interesting that that is in there in that department. I thought everything was cultural related, and I don't understand why a robotics class is in there. Can you kind of fill me in?
Yes. Again, Board President, Vice President, Secretary, Board members, Superintendent Carlson. The reason why we have that is because 4 years ago, we started an initiative to increase STEAM into CCSD. And so that was one of the recommendations based on the educational plan is written based on the monitoring visits that are done by our IEC members, and the survey that is given out for community, parents, staff, students to fill out. Based on that information that comes back, that information is analyzed, and that's how the educational plan for Johnson O'Malley is written. And based on that is what was put into that plan in terms of STEAM that the IEC committees wanted to start incorporating into programs, because at the time they felt that there weren't any type of programs as such. And so based on that, we did create a summer 3-week camp. Actually, I think it was a month camp for secondary students. And it was at Shiprock High School. We had students bust in from Kirtland and Newcomb every day. And we had local, anything to do with science, but with an emphasis of being indigenous, that we had like presentations, and students would take field trips. And one of the weeks that we dedicated to was coding and robotics. And out of the entire camp, based on the evaluation, the kids really took to coding and robotics. And that's how we brought it back the next year. And so, and then the following year, we were going to do that again, but COVID happened. And then the following year, even though some schools were somewhat closed, we still had coding / robotics happen virtually and in person with few students at the 3 areas. And we started getting recognized at that time by other people in the state of New Mexico. So they started jumping in to help us with like information, guidance, support. And so at the time, the administration at that time also wanted to push for coding to increase within the schools, because that was another type of language that he felt needed to be part of the students' language. So that's how we have coding and robotics under our program, because it's written into the Johnson O'Malley grant. And that's how the Indian Education Committee put that in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Begay. And as far as the recognition given nationally, what would you say was the strongest part of why we received that?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What it really came down to is the fact that we were able to really tap into what the students enjoy and were creative in, and they have strengths in these areas, and we tap into their strengths and their interests rather than being told, okay, this is what you're going to do. And that's how these programs were created, like the sewing. We've had these sessions in previous summers, and the ones that the students really enjoy doing and have a lot of interest in is the one that we continue to do every year, which are the ones that were shown and that we were recognized for. But a big component is the fact that what's being taught to them is part of their cultural identity, and that it's great to have these kind of skills and knowledge because there's cultural teachings behind it. But being in a contemporary society now, walking in 2 worlds of Western and Navajo societies, that they can apply these skills and knowledge post-secondary or even now with some sewing. Like, for example, this summer when a lot of the girls and one boy learned how to sew and make skirts, they were already talking about selling them. And so those are the kind of comments we want their minds to start tapping, have them start thinking in that way. And then with the traditional cooking as well, it's not just about cooking. There's stories behind those dishes. And some of them did start indicating that, they can really contribute at family functions now, knowing that they're able to do these dishes. And then with coding itself, the instructors are young Navajo men who are one being an alumni of Shiprock High School, and they attended Ivy League schools, and now are really they're working for really big companies and companies like vehicles that drive themselves, and just having them be like a role model for them. And they were also emphasizing the importance of having their Navajo identity and being out there as a Navajo and succeeding as a Navajo. And so that was the message that was being provided from our department, and then from them as well, that with coding, it's really, how would you say? It's endless what you can do and where it can take you. And so that's I feel like that's why. Thank you.
So, Dr. Begay, did also with that robotics, was there, I'm just wondering if you were able to attach Navajo names or on whether it's coding or the remote. I don't know. I'm just wondering. I'm just curious.
Yes. In fact, the two young men that were our instructors were actually incorporating the Navajo language into their coding. And so they were having them incorporate that coding language into the robots.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know, and thank you so much.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I kind of had to adjust my thought from thinking I was still on the phone. Congratulations, Dr. Begay, to you and your staff members in getting this recognition. I think that was a really great program. And I look forward to many more projects that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. It really, it takes a lot of work to plan and carry this out, the implementation. But we really enjoy doing it because the kids are the ones that really enjoy what they accomplish at the end. I think that's our driving force, and it really is a team effort. We have a great team in our department that's just willing to go beyond what we do every day. So it is a team effort. But again, thank you.
Hands-on is the best learning, and congratulations for your recognition as well. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Next on the agenda, we have no comments from the audience.
Oh, comments from the audience.
We'll start our reports. School board reflection and discussion. Dr. Mizell, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and the President, Mr. Wells, and Superintendent, Mr. Carlson, and school board members, Mrs. Haskey, Mrs. George, and Mr. Montoya, and Mrs. Aspis. Over the years, I've learned a few things as a superintendent, and periodically I do presentations about school board relations and how things work and areas to look at. So I hope all of you received a strength-based self-reflection on how you can contribute as a supportive board member to the meeting process. And I would like to know if you all received that self-survey. It's about your contribution as board members and where you see yourself as a self-reflective board member and how you can contribute. So did everyone get that?
May I ask a question, Board President?
Go ahead.
Dr. Mizell, how did this come about, or why?
It's I presented at different conferences, and I've kind of studied a book called Becoming a Better Board Member and How You Work Together. And I think the important thing, Ms. Aspis, is that everyone as the board understands where the other individuals within the board and what their perspective is. So when you do that self-reflection, you're looking at where you bring strengths. For example, Mr. Wells has some influence in his community. He's a respected community member. And what strengths does he bring to the board meeting in the decisions that are being made? And as far as you consider to be an influencer, for example, out in your community, what strengths do you bring to it, and what areas do you feel you might want to work on, for example? And then also it's important that other board members understand the people that you talk with in different organizations, the ones that you feel you really keep in touch with and keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community with. So that's kind of where this is coming from. So it's more of a board group understanding of each individual's perspective.
Okay, I thought, I know you're president over superintendent, so I thought perhaps that there was something from there, or
no, no. I have presented at different conferences and with different school districts, but this is the first time I've done it with CCSD. But the thing is, I think it's really important. I'm not saying that Bloomfield has everything figured out. We don't. But over the last 8 years, we figured out some things. So I just wanted to share some of those with you guys as you move forward with Mr. Carlson, and how it would probably help everybody in the group understand where the other individuals are coming from.
So may I ask who the contact person is?
For this?
Yes.
It's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just got on the agenda, or?
I offered to provide this process.
Okay.
And Mr. Carlson said, yes, he would like to see what that process looks like. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm just wondering, I'm usually the one with a lot of questions, so thank you.
Well, and Ms. Aspis, I always appreciate your contribution at the School Boards Association. You always ask relevant questions, and I respect what you represent in your district. So other than that, it's just, it's more of a conversation and discussion with your board, so that you guys understand kind of where each of you are coming from from your own individual perspective and as a joint group. The PowerPoint component are some things that I've studied that are things to just think about as you move forward as a group. So it's really just professional development for you guys as school board members. But it's not like you get your hours in with the School Board Association. And at some point, it may end up being in a School Board Association type training. I've been in conversation with Mr. Gann.
That's what I guess so. That's what I'm asking. I'm wondering.
Yeah. I've offered another one that I do, which is superintendent and school board relations. That's another one that I do, and that may show up at the School Board Association's training as well. So just This is something that I've been working on for the last 8 years, and I was explaining earlier that I've mentored about 100 administrators and about 8 superintendents over the past few years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I would like to talk about the self-reflection piece. So have you all had a time to kind of look at that and kind of look where you feel you have strengths?
Mhm.
I did not have a chance to look at it.
Okay. Well, I can read, there's like 20 different questions and you can kind of share out. I'm going to ask each of you where you feel your top 3 areas that you really bring a contribution to the board meetings. And so some of the questions, like, I'm generally a good judge of people. I have a good sense of humor. I plan action in advance. I try to listen objectively to criticism. I am sensitive to the needs and concerns of others. I make decisions relatively quickly. I can keep confidence well. I am able to stick to a board agenda topics. I try to gather the facts and weigh all sides of an issue before I make a decision. I am well informed about public education. And this is you individually, where you see yourself. I am a good leader. I am a good follower. I enjoy dealing with numbers, math, and budget. That's an area that I feel that I bring something to the table as a superintendent. Those are my favorite things. I have high expectations. I can debate issues without arguing. I can listen to people who are angry without getting angry myself. I feel comfortable with change. I am creative and a good brainstormer. So those are the top 19. And those are yes or no's. And what I'm going to ask each of you, the top 3 that you feel you really bring to the table and contribute to the meetings, and 3 areas you feel like you could work on, you could improve on, for example. And then the last question is, and this is to help others understand where you're coming from with your constituency, okay? So it's more about, I answer to the following organizations. And as we all know, we have people that we work with in our communities that we talk with, and issues that come to your office or to you personally about things that are happening in the school district. Many times we're having to address different issues from our communities. And so this one, you need to score 1 through 10. And so the first one on the list is churches, your clan, chapter house, family, tribe, businesses, teachers, unions, athletics. And then at the last part is list social media that you're connected with and you feel you need to respond to, which is like Facebook, or if you have something that you have a following of people that you feel you can have an impact on. And so those are the questions. So I hope everyone's had a chance to look at those. So President Wells, do you feel we can move forward and I can kind of ask some more questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I've looked these over and pondered several of them.
Okay, so for each school board member, if you wouldn't mind reporting out the top three yeses that you feel you bring and can contribute to the board meetings. So I'll start with the president.
That's hardly fair.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I don't know, we talked about, just doing a separate private session, but Mr. Carlson said, it's, your time is valuable, and to bring everybody in, the most opportune time is during a work session. So that's kind of how it landed at this time.
Well, I feel that you said 3 items, right?
Yes, 3 in the yes category.
I feel I'm generally a pretty good judge of people. I keep confidence as well. And I like to study all aspects of whatever issue before making a decision. So.
Okay. And what 3 areas do you feel you would like to improve on?
Number 12, I need to be a better leader.
Okay.
I'm not always, number 18, I'm not always comfortable with change. I've got to see a good reason for it.
A very common one is budget and awareness, because school finance is always complicated. So but if you feel comfortable with that, that's good.
I feel comfortable with my own budget, not. I'm trying to learn the schools.
Right. So that one, we're always all working on. That was a tough one. So, all right. Miss Haskey.
The 3 items are number 5, I'm sensitive to needs and concern of others. 9, I try to gather the facts and weigh all sides of an issue before I make a decision. And 18, I feel comfortable with change.
Okay.
3 areas that I feel that I need that are work in progress is 8, to be able to stick to the board agenda topics. 10, I'm well informed about public education. I think that's a learning curve. I feel like I know some, but there's always, I feel like I need to know more. And then 14, I enjoy dealing with numbers, math, and budgets. Again, that's also a weakness.
All right. Mrs. George.
Hold on, let me go back to it so I can look at it.
Okay.
Whoops. Number 12, I'm a good leader. And number 7, I keep confidence as well. And I have a good sense of humor. Number 2, things I can improve on is number 8, sticking to the board agenda topics. And number 14, dealing with numbers, math, and budget. I don't like math. And then also I need improvement with, I guess, 5, sensitive needs to others. The concerns I'm good with, but I guess the sensitive needs to others I need to improve on.
Okay. Mr. Montoya.
I am a work in progress.
I like that word, that phrasing of it, instead of improvement, just a work in progress.
That's my answer to all your questions.
Oh, okay. So you don't have one that you feel you really bring something to the table? I know that you're...
That's my answer to the questions.
Okay. Miss Aspis.
Well, I don't recall all the options, but just from Marion and Suzette and Cheryl, I think the first one is, I don't know if it's on there, but it's constituents first, and I believe that the concerns for others. Does that fall under that? Or,
Yes. Yeah.
And I think most of my actions are based on that, and you know, and then most is based on that. But my history with the board, or the time on the board, I am aware of most policies, not all, but most policies, and I weigh that first, and then from there, just kind of observe and make my decision. And then what was the second part? I don't.
Basically, work in progress with other areas that you might want to work on.
Oh, I believe it's change, and I don't. And again, I go back to. These are kind of difficult because I feel like, as a person in my own world, as an employee at work, it's a total different setting. And then, but as a board member, putting on that hat, the things that to work on is change. And I apply everything to that first. With that change, how's it going to affect my constituents? First off, and then secondly, does it, well, not really secondly, it's more on the same level, is it policy? So I that's the way I look at it.
Okay, thank you all for really thinking about where you are in the process, and what your strengths will be, and how you feel you can be a work in progress with other areas. This provides insight to Mr. Carlson, kind of where he can provide some more support for you, possibly, or even help with, like, if, budget wise, if there needs to be discussion around budget and support that way, he can so provide that. So number 20 is, who are the top 3 groups or organizations you feel you answer to? For example, I'll talk about my district. I have one school board member that's really involved in athletics. So that would probably be his number one area that, he's really focusing in on. He has a finger on the pulse in the community. And so he's the one that I would go to as a superintendent to get a perspective there. So just to give you an idea of kind of where this information can help with your superintendent and even with your board relations when issues come up. So, President Wells, what are your top 3 organizational? And if they're not listed, that's fine. You can add them. It's just to help with a perspective.
I'm not really sure how my main focus, I guess, is my family and my church association.
Okay. Okay. All right. Ms. Haskey?
I think it's who I identify with. It's my family, my tribe, and my clan. I feel that from my community, that's my family. My family, I'm a reflection of my family, and that's the kinship is through the clan and my tribe. Those are the top, the way I see myself, who I am as an individual. I identify myself as a Navajo woman from Sanasti, and where I grew up, and that's my family. My clanship is very important to me. So I would say the top three would be the clan, family, and tribe.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. George.
Mine would be family, teachers, staff, and clan be my top three.
Okay. Mr. Montoya.
Community, community, community.
Okay. And Miss Asmus.
Again, I think this is a question that that's more because of me in the board member role and wearing that hat. I believe my focus is first on my constituents and then the students and that's it. Just those two. There's no third.
Okay. So as a group, that helps you kind of understand where each member, their priorities and where they're coming from with the questions they're asking, or as you're conducting meetings, they're trying to gain an understanding for the people that they hold themselves responsible for, or the people that they talk with out in the community, making sure that the messages that are coming out of the school board are getting conveyed to their constituents or people that they talk with and family. And so it just gives you a sense of each board member's perspective. And so then the next thing will be we'll talk a little bit about school board support and reflective thinking. And if you'll change to the next slide, which is the PowerPoint, there's only 4 slides, so we're about done. How do the skills and needs of individual board members in relation with superintendent, the effectiveness of the administration, how do your skills intersect with the issues facing the board? And what you bring to the table, and this is more of just what does that relationship look like, and how you impact the meeting process with that intersection. So when you come to a board meeting, do you have other things that you're concerned about that need to be addressed but may not be on the agenda? Does that happen often? Or do you contact the superintendent with those concerns?
Is that a question that
it's just a question as you see your role as a board member.
I think my role as a board member, I try to review all the material, everything that we're going to review, that we're going to go over the board agenda. And if there are any pressing issues, I try to plan ahead and communicate with the superintendent in regards to those. Okay. I try to plan.
Okay. So the prior planning and thought process before the meeting. And the reason why I'm asking this question is to have an effective and an efficient board meeting, that's really important. That, if there's something that's an underlying topic that may or may not be on the meeting or during the work session, it's really important to get those questions addressed. Sometimes it can happen during the work session, but sometimes it's more of a thing that you just need to have a conversation with the superintendent. And that doesn't have to always be in a quorum situation. You just have questions. And it's just important that with that prior planning, that happens so that the meetings run fairly smooth in the sense of topics and discussions. It doesn't always happen the best way, but it does. That helps the process go forward. Anybody else have something?
I do. So Dr. Mazzell, with that being said, you know, if I feel that my question is important to the other 4 board members, then I'll wait and do that out of transparency.
Okay.
So it's there's times when, you know, I can get a question answered, or you know, but for the most part, I try to remember that I am just one board member, and there's 4 others that need to be on the same level as I am in information. So that is one thing that I'd like to say.
Okay, so your main focus is that transparency and that the topics are discussed in a public forum.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have something to contribute to the thought process behind this? All right, we'll go on to the next slide. Over time, I think the important thing is that as school board members, you embrace the idea of we're a team. And as the quicker you get into the idea of we're all in this together attitude, it really does help with the decision making. And recognizing that the fact is that the value of others, which is selves, becomes the board is a self. It's its own identity, and I always think of the collaborative process that happens with the school board. The hard part is some of us have our different perspectives, but we have to unite on the decisions that happen in the school board. And so it's just important that you keep that team approach, and how can you maneuver within the board sessions and the decisions that are made as a group. Because when you have dissension, that starts to play out negatively within your meetings. And then how well do your board members integrate themselves into the board depends on the constructive use of time and energy. So as long as you value everyone's time and everyone's volunteering their time, which I totally appreciate with the boards, but being respectful of that time and energy that's being spent. And so keeping that in mind when you do have those meetings to help the process go smoothly. And so that's just some thoughts around the team approach and how you can unify your efforts. Next slide. One thing that's really important, and I don't know where your board is at this time, but efforts to set and reach common goals at the district level. And this is where strategic planning comes into play with a 3-year plan. Some people do 5-year plans, but those goals really drive the decisions that you make in your meetings. And it kind of helps with the external factors that detract from the district goals. So that helps you streamline your meetings where you're not having things that are not related to the district goals and the focus of what you're trying to accomplish in the years that you're doing the strategic plan to move forward in an efficient manner. Developing systems and process, you have to adhere to those in order to stay focused on those goals. So for example, in my district, our big thing is what's good for the students is our priority. So we base our decision on that goal. And we always look at that, and that's our priority throughout the district. And then you establish the policies that doesn't compromise the board members that may result in liability. So you have, I don't know if you guys have the policy management system that most school districts do. Do you guys have that?
Yes.
where they provide the legal policy recommendations?
Yes, through John Kennedy.
Yes, with Mr. Kennedy. Okay, so every time topics and stuff comes up, it's important to refer to those policies, and like Ms. Aspis feels she's comfortable with policy. She might be a resource for others that say, oh yeah, there's a policy out there that we met, and that book is quite thick. But always reference back to policy so that you don't put yourself in a compromising situation with some of the decisions that may happen. Your school board, your superintendent will also advise you, but that book is very comprehensive. And so that is kind of your guide in making some decisions, and it helps you focus on your goals and what you're going to do as a board. Do you guys have a strategic plan right now?
That I'm aware of.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Not a current one.
Yeah,
and
not current.
We're actually, that's on the agenda to put board members on the committee, the strategic planning committee at the end of this board meeting.
Oh, okay. So that really steers in my district. I report out on the strategic plan probably about every semester. So like once in the beginning of the year. We've already accomplished ours, so we're getting ready to go through strategic planning. Again, we met all of our 3-year goals, but it does really help steer your board meetings, because then you have targeted goals and things that you're working on, and you kind of address the progress being made towards that. So that's really helpful. And then in the book that I'm studying with board things, the next topic are things that just to steer clear of. And this is in your board meetings or during board meetings. And a lot of you had training through the School Board Association, but it's just a good reminder of things that you want to be aware of. So the next slide.
Ms. Aspis, you have your hand up.
Oh.
You saw that.
I did.
I forgot my question. No. I really did forget my question.
We can come back to you if you want to wait.
Well, it kind of goes on this one and a couple of the slides back. But you're talking about goal setting, and I believe, I don't know if I'm correct in this, but I believe when the board finally has its board retreat, I think we would be on better grounds. I don't know if that's something that the answer you are looking for, because we haven't had a board retreat, but it's kind of a unsaid goal, and I think we're all in that, and it's and that's dealing with with the funding, especially now that San Juan Generating has closed. It's kind of I believe that's where it's an unset goal, and I think all of the board members, I think that's one thing that's really that we look out for. And then you were talking about right here where it says failing to be a good listener and and I think your first or couple slides back, that basically was about agreeing to disagree, and I think I don't think we have any issues on that as a board, and but one thing that I try to remember is the oath that we took, and where it talked about being thorough, and that was the language used, the wording used by the judge when we were sworn in as board members. And so, yeah, there's times when the meetings are lengthy, but I feel like it's not my place to, for example, it's not my place to tell, Suzette, hurry up, or, we can do this and that. I don't feel that's my place, because I'm basically shutting down the community that she represents. And so, that's the way I look at things, and I feel that, different people have a way of expressing or showing or doing that thoroughness, being thorough. And so that's why I don't I don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's that kind of self-reflection that I was kind of looking for. As we work together and we get in these roles, and that the group is the self that has to make the decisions that are what they feel is best for the district. And so then that's where we get in these compromising situations sometimes. And so, for example, on this side, when our individual interests overrides the best interests of the whole, they're more worried about what the constituency is, but what's really best for the majority has to come to the forefront. And so that's a hard place for elected officials. And so when you start having the goals and the focus, that really helps you make those decisions, because you've been very public about what you're going to be doing, and you're going to stay true to those goals. The other thing is controlling the meeting by talking a lot can be problematic, because then you don't move through the content really quickly. So that's why with other issues, it's really important. If you're not sure about something that's presented, it's very helpful to ask those questions to make sure you understand prior to a meeting. Granted, we don't always have time to go through all the stuff, but if it's something that you're really not sure about, that's where your superintendent can support that learning curve that you may be struggling with. And so that allows the meeting to move smoothly. Failing to be a good listener, for example, if you're totally set and your mind is focused only on your way of thinking, but you're not willing to look at other people's perspective. And that's why I brought in the self-reflection, and to help you all be aware of where the others are coming from with what they're discussing. And it's so important to listen, because they have their different perspectives and who they feel they represent. And so, Ms. Aspis, you were talking about being respectful of other board members because they represent a different community. And that's really important. So I appreciate that self-reflection. The other key thing that I have seen, and it is very difficult, and two of the members feel they hold confidence really well, but when you look at what's happening in board meetings and social media, you cannot be engaged in that during a board meeting. That is subject to subpoena, and anything that you say or do on your phone can be compromising to the whole group in the board meeting. So it's very important that you refrain from having any communication during a board meeting. And if people see you on your phone, that can be subject to subpoena. So be very, very careful about that. And anything that's discussed in executive session, you all know that it's not something that should come out in a meeting unless and usually after executive session, no decisions are made. It's just a conversation. And then the last one is where if you're in a board meeting and you don't agree with the decision, but you are publicly expressing your frustration, but you are in the minority, that becomes problematic out in the community. So that's where, once again, the board as the self, as a unified group making decision, you have to, even though you're in the minority, you have to come out and support those decisions, because that kind of really causes that division within your board. And so these are just a few little bullets to help with that self-reflection. And if you guys are interested in continuing with any more type of just training, discussion, I'd be more than happy to do that. I hope this was helpful for all of you to help understand the dynamics of the board. And it sounds like you're already getting some ideas about a board retreat and doing your strategic planning. I think that will really help move your district forward in focused effort by the board and by the superintendent. So thank you for your time. And I'm open to any feedback.
Dr. Mizell, thank you very much for that. Is there a way to get copies of these slides?
Yes, I provided them to the district.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's even just the short demonstration from the survey, I think it provides good insight in regards to our priorities. So thank you for that.
Self-reflection is always good.
Yep.
Painful sometimes, but
yeah. That's why I always live there, because, Mr. Montoya, I'm a work in progress as well. And we always have a lot to learn. And I learned a long time ago, you have to really respect other people's perspectives. It's so crucial to a collaborative work that has to be done in our business. And so that's just kind of where the questions came from, and to help you guys understand each other as a group.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Questions for Dr. Go ahead. Don't leave yet.
Okay. On that last slide and what was said, it really comes down to confidence for me. The last couple of years, I didn't have confidence in what I was seeing and how, things were going. And then on top of that, the feedback from the community. And so it really comes down to confidence. I think once that I see that, and then, there's not so much questioning. And if you can tell, you can kind of see it, and so to me, the most part is confidence, and confidence in the superintendent, the administrators, and because I don't know, I'm coming into a setting that's all new to me. And so, but I go back and I feel that if things are expressed that are not well, and for the most part now, it's really not having those issues, and it's great, because then, it does turn into a long meeting, and that's mainly to find out that, that things are being properly presented. And so that's the big thing for me. But I'm not going to, again, I am not going to shut down somebody because of time. I've been accused of that before, about badgering and administrators and keeping them past their bedtime and things like that. But I don't do that out of delight, because I want the meeting over with. I want to walk away feeling informed and having confidence. But what they don't know is that a lot of times after these meetings, I'm on my way to work or night shift. So it's not like, that these are deliberate. I'm also on that end where I have to go on to work. And so, I think the most part is I'd really like to have confidence in the superintendent and to the administrators, and then it won't be so lengthy. It won't be where I'm asking all kinds of questions, and so that's me. Thank you.
I think over time, if you guys work towards those goals and you develop a circle of trust that, all the individuals involved are doing the very best job they can and trying to stay true to what your district goals are, that will help with that confidence, Ms. Aspis, because, and that you guys are pulling, and I always say this, pulling the train together, jointly working together, and not derailing the focus of the district. And so I appreciate your reflective thinking on that. And that was the whole point of this presentation, it's food for thought and helping you to understand each other as a group. So thank you. Any other questions?
It appears not.
All right. Thank you for your time, and you guys have a good work session.
Thank you very much. Item B, Research Polling Incorporated for presentation for the school board redistricting. Good grief, I can't even talk. Michael Sharp and Mr. Sharp and Mr. Morrison.
Hello, Mr. President. I'm Brad Morrison. My colleague, Michael Sharp, is not here this evening. He's at a Albuquerque Public Schools meeting tonight. And so I took the lead on this project so far. Obviously, we're not under contract. That's what I'm here to talk about tonight. We were asked by the Central Consolidated School Board to provide a proposal for redistricting services. That's what you're seeing right now on the screen. I presume all the board members have had a chance to look at that. I was just going to describe briefly what the process looks like, and then I can answer any questions if you have them. But the typical process, the way we start by taking your current map and we enter it into our system that includes all of the census data. And, the 5 board member districts, we put that all in there, which I've already done actually, because I wanted to see, which districts were out of the equal population compliance. All of the 5 districts have to be within plus or minus 5% of an ideal population. So I wanted to see what that looked like first, if it was even necessary to redistrict. It almost always is, and it is in your case as well. You have one district that is too low on population. It's at -6%. So you are required to redraw your board member district boundary lines. So what we do after we enter that, your current plan into our system, is our contract would provide for 2 initial redistricting plans based on the population data from the 2020 census. And then what we would do is we would draw those couple of plans up, we would provide maps, and we provide data that goes along with it. It's a statistical summary of the population data, the demographic data for each district. And then those plans could or could not be adjusted. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I'd say more often than not, they're not adjusted. We usually find a good solution that the board members like or can live with. But if there are adjustments that need to be made to our initial plans, or if the board wants to direct someone to work with us to develop those plans, we're willing to do that. I think in the past, I know that our firm has worked with Mr. Gorman at the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. And obviously we'd be willing to take input from Mr. Gorman if the board directed us to do so. After a plan is adopted, well, let me back up a second. So, and we would be available for up to 3 public hearings if you need us for all of those. Sometimes it doesn't take 3 public hearings. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2, usually 2. But we're available for up to 3 virtual public hearings where we would attend via Zoom. And then after a plan is adopted, we would provide you with a final large format map in PDF format that would allow you to print that if you so wished, and with more 8.5 by 11 detailed maps of the different areas of the different districts. And then we do written descriptions that describe each line segment of a boundary line for the districts that we created. And all of this needs to be done by the end of the year. So it has to be done by December 31st, assuming whoever you choose to redistrict the board member districts. We would be able to get it done if you made a decision pretty soon. We could get it done over the next probably month and a half, assuming that the board could come to some agreement on which plan they prefer. So that's basically the gist of how it works. You can see our proposal there, the cost, and I will answer any questions if you have them.
I did have an opportunity to look it over and study it. Did I understand it all? I did not. But I appreciate that. And I appreciate also the fact that we need to get this done by the end of the year. Ms. Asmus, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mr. Morrison. So, yes. How, for understanding and clarity, how did this come into your hands, and who's the one that gave you this?
Who asked me? You're saying who asked for the proposal? I don't know if she's breaking up, but okay. My colleague Michael Sharp was initially contacted, but I believe it was by your superintendent, Mr. Carlson, to get a proposal for redistricting the 5 board member districts. Mr. Carlson, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
You made that contact? I thought we asked Ms. Thompson to do that.
Thompson or Candace?
Yes, Candace.
I've been involved in the discussions, so okay. I mean, it might as well have been me since I'm answerable to it. Yeah, it may have been Ms. Thompson to begin with. It probably was actually, but then I've been involved since then.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I just finished Bloomfield schools last week. We've done numerous school boards and city councils and county commissions around the state. We also did the state redistricting, the state legislative redistricting, the state house, state senate, the congressional districts, etc. So I've been doing this for 23 years. I've been with research and polling that long. This is my 3rd cycle of redistricting. And Mr. President, you had mentioned that you didn't understand all of it. Part of the process, once you begin the process, the first meeting, that's what we do, is we give more of the background, more of the details about the rules surrounding redistricting, what the principles are and how it works. And we give a lot more detail in that first meeting where we present, hopefully we present plans that we've developed, but we at least show you what your current districts look like and where they stand based on the 2020 population.
Who then receives that information? Does that go to the county and the state as well as the school board or the school district?
Yes, sir. It would go first to you, but I also provide all the documentation to the county clerk's office because they're the ones that run the elections. So any changes that are made to the districts, they need to implement into the voter file. And they're really the authority on local elections. And that's where it really goes there first. I mean, that would be the most important place. But obviously we provide it to the school board, the school district, and then the county clerk's office, and we provide nothing else to the state.
I think, Ms. Aspis, to answer a little more of your question, when this first came to my forefront of my knowledge about it, Mr. from the tribe, I can't remember, he had written a letter.
Mr. Gorman?
Mr. Gorman, yes. He had written a letter to the district telling us that needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Attention, when it first brought to my attention, I couldn't think. Had a brain bubble. And we were scrambling because nobody knew exactly what it was talking about, and I think that's how it got started, was it not?
That could be about right. I mean, it's all. I don't know if you mentioned. I don't know if this is something I need to talk about much, but so it's in statute that the year after a census that this must be done.
Yes.
And so it only happened 10 years ago. And matter of fact, the same folks did it then. Since then, and I've had conversations with Mr. Gorman as well as both Mr. Morris and Mr. Sharp about the process and the use of some of the shape files for Mr. Gorman and how he would be involved in the process. So we do need to move it forward, and so we're all aware of it now, and that's why we're here on the agenda. Hopefully that answers some of the questions. Ms. Aspis still has.
Ms. Aspis, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. So, okay, the reason why I was asking about how did this come aboard and who, because I would think it would have, my thoughts was it was coming from state, and then to go back to when we had the presentation by Mr. Gorman from Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission, it sounded to me at that time, if I'm not mistaken, that he was not confident in the census numbers, and that it was something that he was taking to court, and that was the redistricting of I don't know how you want to put that. The other election that just happened, I don't know, the primary, and but that was with the primary, and so now we're coming up on the school board election. So how is it doesn't make sense to me that you were, and then you said that you were working with Mr. Gorman, and so, and knowing that he didn't have confidence in the numbers, and that it was headed to court. Where is all of that now?
I'm not sure if you want me to take that question or not. I might be able to shed some light there, but first let's take the issue of confidence in the numbers. I understand why some people might question the numbers. I mean, I think the Census Bureau themselves acknowledge that the numbers, the population counts aren't perfect. And I can tell you that typically minority populations are undercounted. So, there are often Hispanic and Native American undercounts across the nation. And sometimes the Census Bureau will, they have algorithms where they will modify the numbers slightly to accommodate for those undercounts. And this particular census year, that's a federal government issue that we have no control over. They didn't make any modifications, was my understanding, at the Census Bureau to any of the counts. They didn't try to account for the undercount. And so therefore, I think they released the numbers as is. So we have what they gave us, and the Census Bureau, the federal government is the authority on the census. The state has no say in adjusting for an undercount. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about as far as the confidence in the numbers, but that's definitely something that they talk about at the federal level. But once the census data is released, that's where we are. I presume there could be litigation on that, but that would be a huge federal case, I guess, that would go before the Supreme Court. And we haven't heard anything about that. Now, on a more local level, I don't know if maybe you might be referencing, it was my understanding too, that when the San Juan County Commission redistricted the county commission districts, that there was litigation brought against that plan that was adopted there for, I think, one reason in particular, but I wouldn't want to speak to the legal issues on that because I'm not an attorney. But I don't know if that's what you might be thinking of as well. He might have referenced that because I think the county commission redistricting was completed, and we did not do that job. That was another firm that did that for San Juan County. But I think that was finished probably late last year. And he could have been referencing that when he was talking about litigation around redistricting. It could be in regards to the San Juan County Commission.
Okay, I think, but what I remember mostly was that he didn't have confidence in the numbers, and this census was taken in 2020, and so since then we've had COVID, and so for me, as not a statistician or counter, or but I think with the things that have gone on in our area, COVID being one of them, and the second is the closure. I would say the numbers are off, and but I don't. I'm just wondering how. And you guys, I know it's not perfect. It's not a with the plus and minus 5%, and one already showing up 6. I just think that I don't know. I feel like Mr. Gorman. I'm not confident in this, and so I don't know what that means as a board member. But how closely are you working with the schools? Because we see it in our student count that our numbers are dwindling.
Well, I can tell you that the population declined in San Juan County. I mean, every entity we've done so far, I've noticed big drops in the population in the different areas that we redistricted. I think that was due, a lot of that may have been, job losses in the area, stuff like that. But I don't know exactly why, but there has been population decline. One thing to take into consideration is that sometimes when we do school boards, people get focused on, they think maybe we're adjusting attendance boundary lines. That, first of all, this has nothing to do with attendance at schools. Secondly, when we look at population, we look at total population, every man, woman, child, even people who might be incarcerated are counted in the census. So we're looking at the total population, and that's what we use when we're trying to get equal population among the districts. That's the only criteria there is. I mean, as far as equal population goes, when we look at minority voting strength and some of those other issues, then we start to look at adult population as such. But we're not, when we redistrict and we're looking at equal population, we're looking at the total population. We're not looking at registered voters. We're not looking at adults versus children. It's just total population.
If I understand right, you're given the numbers of the population from the census, i.e. the federal government, and that's what you have to work for or work from. Did I understand?
That's 100% correct. And there's no way, you cannot modify the numbers. I mean, there's no way to modify them. You have to use what you're given by the Census Bureau. And as far as redistricting goes, based on state statutes, you have to have it done within a certain time frame, or you could be opening yourself up to litigation if you don't complete the redistricting process before you actually conduct an election.
So how is this? You just said earlier too that the correction factor wasn't applied. So how is this supposed to be beneficial or be of some use to us?
That's to be done.
I think it's a fair question, but I don't have an answer for you. I mean, I just, we are following the law, and the law requires that you redistrict based on the population that you do have. And it said the state statute states that you must do complete redistricting once after every federal decennial census. And I'm not saying the census numbers are inaccurate. I think there are people that believe they are, and they might be slightly inaccurate. Like I said, there typically or historically has been an undercount in some areas, and in particular among minority populations, including Hispanics and Native American populations. Does that mean does that mean it was severely undercounted in San Juan County? I don't know. I mean, no one knows, but I think it's a fair, I understand where you're coming from. But as far as the benefit to you is, I think it's just something that is required by state statute, and you want to be in compliance of the equal population principle of redistricting.
Your hand's still up, Ms. Asper. Do you have another question?
Yeah. So it's just hard to think about this, and I mean, on one side you're saying that there's minorities and the correction factor added, but then on the other side you're saying that there's a count, and even the ones incarcerated are counted for. So I just don't understand. To me, I feel that and the way I gather on how the census benefits townships such as, say, Farmington or Kirtland, it helps provide in those services such as police and fire departments and things like that. So we don't have that on the reservation. And is that why it's just being disregarded and just go forward? Even though you don't have a number, a good confident number, is that, just get it over with and go forward and make sure it's done by December 31st.
Well, I think he said that they have no wiggle room as far as the numbers are concerned. They're given to us by the federal government, and that's what they have to work with.
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, I suppose you could choose not to redistrict. I'm not sure.
I don't think we want to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise that, but ultimately it is your choice as the board to decide who to hire, whether to do it or not, and what plan to choose. We're just the consultants that provide all the technical support and the professional support based on our years of experience in redistricting. And we're guiding you through the process, but ultimately you're the decision makers, and you can choose to accept or decline this proposal. You can choose to accept or to redistrict or not, knowing that the state statutes require it. But ultimately that's your decision and your call, and I defer to you all on that decision. So.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Morrison? I think he's explained it rather well. Thank you then, Mr. Morrison.
I have a question for Superintendent Carlson.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Carlson, so on this presentation here, what other avenues can we go, or where we can get more information, and is our board attorney involved in this? Has she heard all of this?
I mean, I suppose I could try to contact her. I haven't really had. I may have had a conversation at some point, but I don't believe I have. I don't know that we did look into. There is one other possible firm, and we were recommended research and polling by just about everybody. And I have mentioned, I know that the confidence is a big factor, and I can assure you that we will utilize Mr. Gorman with the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission as much as possible. And matter of fact, before the board approves anything, I would make sure that he sees the final product.
Right, and I like that idea. I don't have any problems with the firm, but just the information shared, it makes me wonder even more. And I think I would really like to hear from Mr. Gorman and what he thinks, and before we decide, because when's the next census going to be taken? It may be years from now.
2030.
Yeah.
10 years.
So I would like to hear what he thinks, and he's more educated on the matter as part concerning Navajo Nation, and that's not to say the firm is not educated, but they have their views, and then whereas Gorman has the Navajo Nation's views, and so I would like to hear that as a board member.
Ms. Aspis, can I say one thing?
Yes.
So I don't know if you're aware or not, but our firm does have pretty close relationship with Mr. Gorman, and I personally have not worked much with Mr. Gorman. Obviously, I would be willing to do so on this project, and that's actually what we talked about as with my other staff members. We talked about that today. We have worked really closely as a firm with Mr. Gorman, especially on the state redistricting projects. We've probably spent, our staff has probably spent, countless hours with Mr. Gorman, working with him on these specific, redistricting projects, like how the Navajo Nation is affected by state legislative redistricting, congressional redistricting, et cetera. So, our staff does have a pretty close relationship with Mr. Gorman. I personally have less of a relationship with him just because I haven't worked with him as closely. But our Michael Sharp has extensive experience with Mr. Gorman, and I think they've worked well together in the past. I'm not trying to sell you on this job, but I'm just telling you that we respect that that notion. We know it's something that we expected. 10 years ago, I think Mr. Gorman pretty much drew the plan that was adopted by the board, and Research and Polling just provided the maps and helped guide that process. So, we're willing to provide whatever level of technical support that you need, and we're willing to work with Mr. Gorman. I just, wanted you to know that we have worked with him extensively in the past, and I think we can again if you so desire.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong. I know you know what you're doing, but there's those concerns, and I know it's not based on the attendance, but with the job losses, it does impact our attendance, and seeing that going dwindling down. It's only fair to say that what's happening in our community. And so but I is Gary still on, Mr. Montoya?
Board Member Rasmus, Mr. Montoya had to leave. He has a class. He'll be rejoining us after that class, but he probably won't be back for a while, I believe.
Okay. And also, I really like to hear what the board thinks. May I?
Yes. Go ahead.
No, may I ask what the board thinks?
You may. My recollection was Mr. Gorman sent the district a letter informing us that we had till the end of the year to provide a redistricting. That's my recollection. That was the first that any of us, as I recall, were made aware of that, and it was called shape file. And I asked because the information that I got was we were going to, if we didn't do it, our shape files, we were going to be in violation and subject to a penalty from the state. And I think that was the second or the third letter he claimed that he had written and received no response on. And Mr. Carlson was not the superintendent at that time. And I talked to Mr. Benavides and said, I need to get informed on this, and we need to get working on it. And that was the first that it came to my attention and my understanding. And then that's where Candace Thompson got involved. And I don't remember exactly where it went from there, Mr. Gorman was the one that informed us in the beginning that, hey, you guys need to get going on this. What are you doing about the shape files? And he was a little concerned because that was his third notice to the school district and had received no response from the district. And I questioned Mr. Benavides about that at the time. So thanks to Mr. Gorman, we're finally getting moved on this. My opinion is we don't have a lot of wiggle room. We're given the information of the census from the federal government and mandate from the state that it has to be done by the end of the month or we'll be in violation. So my recommendation is that we move on this as soon as we possibly can. Allow Research and Polling Incorporated to move forward and working with Mr. Gorman and get this done so that we will not be in violation. That's my opinion. Ms. Haskey?
Mr. Gorman is not the state, though.
Well, in my recollection, my recommendation is also to move forward back in March, like President Wells had stated, there was that email that Mr. Gorman sent out to all the board members. I specifically also reached out to at the time former Superintendent Benavides in regards to providing the information needed for the redistricting. I just saw in my emails also that I had to send, I think, two emails for that information to be shared with Mr. Gorman and his office, his staff. So we did have ample time, but now we're in October and we are pressed for time. So I think that the work needs to be done, and if Mr. Gorman can probably come and provide input when the work is done, if they're working in collaboration, then he can help provide information with what was your team's call? With research and
polling.
Research and polling.
So can I interject once here?
We have one more board member, I think, to hear from.
Okay.
Ms. George?
Yes, I agree with Vice President Haskey. It has to be done, so I agree with her. Thank you.
No, go ahead, Mr. Morrison.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. What I wanted to say is part of the discussion I had today with my colleagues is that, assuming that we were awarded this contract, that we would draw a couple of plans, reach out to Mr. Gorman, share a screen with him, go through everything with him, explain what our rationale is, let him give his input on that. And this is all assuming that we were directed by the board to allow Mr. Gorman to be a part of the process. We assumed you would want him to be, but obviously we work at your behest. So we wanted to make sure that, that we were, that we had your approval first on that. But that was our plan all along, is to include him if it was okay with you, so that we could we always get his opinion on, there's always issues with precincts and chapter boundaries. So we worked 2 years ago to correct a lot of the precinct boundaries in San Juan County for the county clerk, in order to try to conform more closely to those chapter boundaries. So sometimes those are the biggest issues that we've come across with Mr. Gorman. And it's been a challenge in the past because of the way the precincts were aligned. We've got them closer they match a little more closely to the chapter boundaries. And we have some ideas on how to make it a little better if it makes sense. But obviously that's, what our plan was all along, is if we were awarded this, that's who we would consult with on those issues within the Navajo Nation.
I like that, Mr. Morrison. I'd like for you to work with Gorman, and then also I'd like feedback from Gorman on what the end result was, but specifically what you were talking about, that correction factor, and why is it not being used, and I'd really like to hear that back from Mr. Gorman as well, or that question asked to him, and I'd be comfortable with that.
Are there any other questions then for Mr. Morrison?
I agree.
Okay, thank you for your presentation and for your explanation and for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Item C, High School and Beyond Longitudinal Study of 2022 by Ms. Foonery, Lisa Kessler, Phyllis Yazzie, and Elizabeth Parrish.
It's late. I can't even see that. I was like,
thank you very much for having us today, Superintendent, board members, and board president. We're very happy to be here to have this opportunity. And in advance of the meeting today, we did provide the board with a packet that is shown on the screen. And I just wanted to start off to ask if it was something that was reviewed in advance, or you would prefer, for us to talk about the study with you today.
For myself, I did have time. I did take time to glance at it. Did I go through it thoroughly? I did not, but give us an overview, and then if we have questions, we'll.
Okay. This is the High School and Beyond Longitudinal Study of 2022. And this is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education's National Center for Education Statistics. And this is one of their longitudinal studies. They take place approximately every 10 years. This series started actually back in 1972. And so this is their latest longitudinal study for high school students. And it's very big picture, looking to understand how students, when they come into high school, how prepared they are for high school. And then there's like another snapshot of when they're about to graduate from high school and all that they learned. Are they ready to go into the career, into the workforce, or off to college? And one thing that is not mentioned in this board packet, but I did want to let everyone at this meeting know that we are working very closely with the Navajo Nation Research Review Board. Our contact there is Dr. Rebecca Izzo-Many-Mules, and we do expect to receive board approval from them actually next week. We are going to present to them one last time, and they are very supportive of the study. and really hoping that school boards and superintendents and principals that may have schools in the sample, that they are also supportive. So we are, we're just really excited to be here today. And what it looks like in the schools, you have 2 schools that were sampled. You've got Kirtland Central and also Shiprock High School. And what it would look like for their schools to participate. It's a very short 90-minute session, and our HSMB project staff, they bring all of the study materials, they bring a Chromebook lab, and the students participate. There are some math and reading questions, and they also get to take a student survey. Just another endorsement letter. We have also worked with the National School Board Association, who are also in support of the study. This is really mission critical research. This is one of the key data sets that is used by Congress. And just a really an example that I know that everyone at the board here can relate to, the Perkins V funding. Congress used the predecessor study data set to fund the latest and greatest Perkins V, which is all of our career and technical education. And so we cannot understate, it's so important to have participation from schools like yours. The sample was selected. If these schools do not participate, we do not have any replacement schools to go to. So that's the high level overview. If you scroll down, there's some other really great slides, and it's also in in the packet about what previous rounds of this study, some of the data products that were produced for our Indigenous families and students. And so we're really excited again to have this opportunity, and we really hope that you will consider supporting us. And I'm just going to stop and just open up the floor for questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why the long word? I can't say. That longitude something.
I love it. I completely feel you. We usually just call it HSNB for short, but the longitudinal study, it is just to depict that it is a study over time. And for this particular study, there's a 9th grade data collection point. And then, as I said earlier, there's also one when the students are seniors and they're about to exit high school.
So we will get feedback on this later?
You will. You will. The schools, as long as they have enough participation, there's a wonderful report that the principals are going to have, and they will get 5 indicators, some math items, some reading items, and also really actionable items about the students if they use the counseling program, and that's for college and career readiness. Are the students doing any type of financial planning to get ready for college? That's the type of information that the report is going to give, and it will go to, like I said, both of the principals.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you want to just scroll up a little bit, we'll just keep scrolling through it. And at the end of the packet, we put, there we go. Just, keep scrolling. Right here. Yep. Okay, go ahead. Keep scrolling. Some of the research questions that we're focusing on here, the topics of interest, the study design, which I already talked about, and it is a very low burden. And I know that I did hear in the work meeting that there is a lot of concern for COVID. And I also wanted you to know that the students can participate virtually if that was preferred by the principals. It doesn't have to necessarily be in school. And here, this is a really interesting data product that the Department of Education published actually not that long ago. And this kind of speaks to what Dr. Begay was talking about. How do you know that your students are interested in STEM careers? Where does that information come from? And STEM careers were actually the #2 most interested career path for Native students. And so they were really on the mark with being able to provide that robotics opportunity for your kids. I think there's one more. There we go. This was another data product that they put out talking about what do Native students, what do they care about? What do they value? Job security was the main one. And they value work-life balance more than salary. So that's really, really interesting. It was kind of like a neat data point. We wanted to share it with you all today. And really the bottom line is we do need more participation to be able to report outcomes. For this study, there was an oversampling of our American Indian students with hopes that they could be represented in the data set. But in order for that to be possible, we do need sampled schools to consider participation if they can. There we go. And we have had communication with the principals, and they are interested in participating. And we also were asked, and Monica can chime in, and also Phyllis as well. I know Phyllis Yazzie is on the line. They did want us to make sure that the board was aware that the study was coming, and also that the board was supportive before we were able to move forward with data collection with the schools. What questions can I answer for you?
Question.
Sure.
Once the study is done, when do you anticipate the report to be presented to the board?
So the first release of data will take place approximately 1 year after the first round of data collection. And so data collection is now, and it goes through until about January in 2023. And so about a year after that, they'll publish findings from the first round, and then they'll publish again after the follow-up round in 2026. So it takes about a year for data delivery and things like that for the data product to be published.
One other question.
Yeah.
In terms of the number of participants, you had in there 25 to 30 participants. That's going to be at each school, correct?
That's correct. It's like a class size, and I don't know offhand how big the schools are, but it's anywhere between like 25 to up to like 40 students at each school. It's not all of the 9th graders. It's just a subset of them. And we draw what's called a stratified random sample. And that means that it really is. It's just a random sample of the students at each school.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And also I should mention that out of the 40 or so students that participate, we do ask for the principals of the schools. They get a voluntary link to a survey to talk about things that are going on at their school. And there's a counselor survey and also a math teacher survey. And it's not all the math teachers. It's just the math teachers of the students that were selected to participate. And it usually comes out to be about 2 to 3 math teachers per school. And again, it's voluntary. They receive an email. And if they want to participate, they can. And if not, that's fine. And we also invite a parent of each student to also complete a survey. And we do have our parent letter and contacting materials already translated in Navajo as well for those that may need it. Sure, go ahead.
What participation does the school itself have in it, or what input, excuse me, does the school have in it? Any at all? But
Yeah, and that's a great question. This is not like NAEP. This is a voluntary study. The principals can choose to participate or they can choose not to. But again, we want to really come across that this is critical data. We don't have backup schools. And so when we're not able to come to a resolution with the principals, we don't have any backup schools. It's just 2 less schools that are in the data set. And just like the big picture, we're looking at approximately 920 high schools across the country. That includes BIE schools, it includes public schools, charter schools, private schools as well, and also Catholic schools. And it's approximately 26,000 students that will participate.
thank you.
Sure. And this is like what you're looking at here. This just gives a little bit of what each of the surveys look like. And it's very, very straightforward. There's no, we're not asking students anything about violence or drugs or anything like that. We really just want to know, how they feel about high school. If they see themselves going to college or going to the military or having a career, do they take advantage of the counseling program to seek, college and career readiness planning, things like that. So it's really this study comes from a great place. The data are used for funding for public schools and for populations like you have here. And we really want to do everything that we can so it does work for the 2 schools.
Are there any questions?
No further questions. Thank you.
Sure. And I also, I'm not per board when you vote. So I guess that would be the next board meeting that you have. Okay. And so would this be put on the next board meeting and then you would vote yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be on the consent agenda for the next board meeting.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It's just our pleasure and we're honored. And it was actually really wonderful to see Dr. Begay speak at the very beginning. Definitely some great takeaways, and you have some wonderful things going on in your district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Item C. School and, oops,
No,
that's the one we
D.
just finished. Item D. Fundraising request by Anthony Claw.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to thank the school board and the superintendent for this opportunity to present the fundraiser that we're seeking approval for. I've been the head coach for the football program for almost 4 seasons now, and the fundraiser I would like to do is something that I did previously before COVID. It's a fan cloth fundraiser. If it's something you're not familiar with, the process is to work with fan cloth to create an online fan store. And the link is shared with friends, family, and the community. Orders are made directly from the website, and items are delivered to the people who order them, so it doesn't cross the coaches' or players' hands. And additionally, the money doesn't cross any of the coaches' or players' hands. And after the fundraiser is completed, a percentage of the money is that is spent on the items is sent to the football program and is deposited into our activity account. And the funds raised will be used to directly benefit the student athletes who are in the program. None of the funds will be used for the coaching staff or any other adults. And that could include something like buses for 7-on-7 or registration fees for those summer 7-on-7 tournaments, or possibly purchasing items that the student athletes can use while training. It could be like shirts or shorts, or items for end of season banquet celebration. Excuse me, and or team items that can be worn during the games. So thank you for your time. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Do you have some better lighting? You look like a Halloween figure.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my daughter at the volleyball game in my car.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Comments? Thank you, Mr. Claw.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with your girls' game.
Thank you.
Unique trip request by Pedro Arribas, Curtin High School.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, Superintendent. Thank you so much for allowing me to present to you tonight. We had the unique opportunity, which was actually provided to us by Mr. Montoya. He brought our attention to something very significant in history. They are dedicating the first National Native American Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. at the National Mall. We're requesting your support in approving our students to attend. We're partnering up with Shiprock JRTC, their Marine Corps JRTC. They'll be taking 5 cadets. We'll be taking 5 cadets if approved, and we'll be taking them starting November 9th to Albuquerque, flying out November 10th to Virginia, and then spending till November 14th, we'll be returning back. The dedication is a 3-day event starting on Friday with the actual dedication and procession, which our cadets will participate in. And Saturday and Sunday will be different cultural music, storytelling, performances throughout the 2 days in honor of this historic dedication. So we've already requested support last night from the Johnson O'Malley. They were behind us in trying to get students out there and helping us with the funding. They'll be, if approved, they'll be paying for the billeting, the airfare, and the cost of the bus transportation to and from Albuquerque to drop us off and pick us up. Our Shiprock High School and Kirtland Central High School would then be responsible for the chaperones and the per diem, the meals for the cadets. But with your approval, we'd love to take this opportunity to take our students on this trip, and pending any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I realized last Friday you did a memorial event for Clifton Yazzie, and
Yeah.
there at Kirtland, and just really wanted to say thank you, and that I believe years have gone by, and we should never forget. And I guess with this coming up now, perhaps there's something that the family would like to take, or somehow honor them, or Clifton Yazzie, or not or, but and Westbrook Brothers from Shiprock High, and that this is a real big thing, and those are the 3 that really stand out to me.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, we did a Gold Star family salute at our home football game. And I'd like to thank Mr. Wells for being there to show his support and representation. We have also discussed, Dr. Benedict wants to work on doing a mural in our commons at the high school. And once again, inviting Sergeant Yazzie's family to be a part of that rededication ceremony there at the high school. And I would love to get in touch with Sergeant Yazi's mother and see if there's any memento or anything that they would like us to take and leave at this monument, just in representation of the sacrifice that they've made in honor of their son's sacrifice for our country. So definitely I'll look into that if approved, to try and make that happen with the family.
Any other comments or questions?
I have a request. After your trip, can you provide just like an overview of how the trip went and provide some, pictures and things?
Oh, yes, definitely. My intent is, of course, to take as many photos as possible to document the trip and the travel, this experience for our cadets, kind of from their aspect. And what I wanted to do was have them put together a presentation and have them come to the board meeting and also to meet with the staff at the Johnson O'Malley and just let them know what the trip meant to them and what they got out of it, because I feel it's really significant for our students in this area to be a part of this. And I want them to remember it. So just so you're aware, we've chosen 5 cadets from Kirtland Central High School, 5 from Shiprock. And the way that I chose my cadets is I chose 1 from each grade level, 9th through their senior year. And I have 2 seniors going, which have been in our leadership positions. And the reason I chose and wanted to disperse the knowledge is so that we maintain, hopefully, somebody in our program that has had the opportunity to travel and can continue to share this experience for the next few years. And we can continue to share it as instructors well beyond that. But they'd be able to speak personally firsthand about the experience that they received going on this trip. So that's not a problem. That is part of what the students will be responsible for as part of the educational aspect, as well as researching the history of the code talkers and that point that came from New Mexico and the impact it had in World War II and even as far back as World War I.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It sounds like a wonderful opportunity for the kids to participate in. Ms. George?
Oh, yes. Mr. Carlson, can we make sure that if the chaperones are parents or non-employees of the district that we get a background check with plenty of time before they leave? Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just to set you at ease, I'll be one of the chaperones. Gunnery Sergeant Benali will be the other male chaperone, and the female chaperone that is agreed to go with us pending her approval is Miss Deidre Nakai. She is a employee of the district as well. So they've all been vetted through the district's background investigation, cleared to be employees of the district.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds like you've covered all bases.
We're trying to, sir. We want to make sure we cover everything and get everything lined out, dot all the I's, cross the T's, and ensure we have a great trip with these students.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, safe travels.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Item F, 2022 Toys for Tots program. Mr. Sol?
Mr. President Wells, board members, Superintendent Carlson, guests and visitors, good evening. Yate. My name is Jonathan So. I am the new program supervisor for the Shiprock Office of the NA Youth. We are in the planning stages for the annual Christmas Toys for Tots toy distribution. And a little background on the Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots is a program run by United States Marine Corps Reserve, which distributes toys to children across the United States. The program was founded in 1947 by reservist Major Bill Hendricks. This is their 75th year. The Native American Toys for Tots program started in 1980. This will be their 43rd year delivering toys and books to Native American children across Indian Reservation. Shiprock Office of the NA Youth, this is the 6th year that they will be coordinating in the toy distribution for the Northern Agency. This evening, I'm before you requesting for information. This will be a list of names of students, first name, last initial only, age, gender, and grade of all students attending the Central Consolidated Schools. The name and school and teacher is also, we're requesting for that also. This information will be used to allocate the number of toys for each school. The information also helps us identify age and gender appropriate toys for each child. This collaborative approach only ensures we have a successful outcome, which is to make sure every child receives a Christmas gift. This evening, I ask for your support. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
I have one that concerns the distribution.
Yes.
Who determines, is this to all kids in all schools?
My staff and I will be reviewing the lists and just allocating the number of toys for each school. And this is for all children. The list also, like I said, provides us information so we can separate the toys, age and gender appropriate toys for each child. I hope I answered your question.
That portion of it, I'm going to ask another one. What are you asking for volunteers for the toy distribution, accumulation? How are you hoping to receive these toys?
We are anticipating the toys to be shipped. The first shipment should be right before Thanksgiving. And this list, we're hoping to have all the lists from each school before. And we will start the separating and sorting of toys. And hopefully around Christmas, we will be distributing or having them ready. I think the practice in the past was that once we get all the schools identified, all the toys separated and packaged, we notify the district, and the district will pick up the toys and distribute it to the schools. I believe that's been the practice, at least in the last couple of years. We like to do the same. We're not going to really change anything. We will notify the district when the toys are packaged per school.
Where do the toys come from? I guess is
the toys come from the Marine Corps Reserve. They're the ones that coordinate the shipping. It comes from all over the United States, is what I learned. So they fill up a truck and they send that truck down to us. I believe there's 3, we're anticipating 3 truckloads this year. And it just comes in a bulk shipment. And our staff are the ones that sort all the toys by gender and age appropriate.
okay. That answers my question. Are there any other questions from the board?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mr. Soul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
First annual CCSD pageant proposal by Ms. Fuentes and Mr. Russell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Donovan Russell, President Wells, and Superintendent Mr. Carlson, and Madam Chair Askey, and also Aspis, and Ms. George, and also Mr. Montoya. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce you to our request for this first annual CCSD pageant. And so I work as an equity supervisor here at the district and work under the community outreach department, the intercultural community outreach department. And so we're excited to announce that we would like to have the first annual Mr. CCSD Ambassador and Miss CCSD Ambassador. And we'd like to put on a pageant in the next month on the date of November 4th. And so this pageant is going to be open to just any student that is enrolled here at CCSD district. And for the secondary schools, it'd be for any ages from 7th grade to 12th grade. And individuals who could, or it's open to actually anybody. So the eligibility requirements will be open to just any student heritage. And so, so just anybody with linguistic and cultural heritage background. And so, so the way this actually came up, this idea that came up was actually from the voices of our students. As we presented earlier in our presentation, Mrs. Cientes noted that our students went to the Unity Conference, which is United Nations Indigenous Tribal Youth. We attended that national conference in Minnesota. And so these students actually saw the insight of the representation from all the Native American tribes and schools. And so they felt like to travel with an ambassador would be would look good on our part as a school district, as there was many princesses that were there in representation of their school and their group. And so in the past year, we've welcomed and implemented the implementation of the Equity Council students, who are a diverse group, and they're all good thinkers, innovators, and individuals representing academia, leadership, and culture. And so we kept our student voices embedded as part of ICO's mission to evaluate and combat the challenges that our students and families need to address within their communities. And we've also discussed the ideas to bring strategies for more district and student and community involvement. And so this pageant is one of those innovations under the collaboration of the district and the students. And so the outline of our pageant is going to begin on the day. The pageant date is going to be Friday, November 14th, 2022. It'll begin at 4 p.m. And the location of this pageant will be at the Phil Thomas Center at here in Shiprock. And again, it's going to be open to any 7th grade CCS students with good academic standings. And we have an application date on Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022 at 4 p.m. And these applications can be submitted here to our office or else to the school principal who can forward these applications to us. And then just followed with the agenda of the pageant. We'll begin with the national anthem at 4 o'clock and raising the colors. And then we'll have the opening remarks done by Mr. Peter Deswood, CCSD superintendent. And then we'll have some entertainment done by Eva B. Stokely Elementary School, which they've been recognized for some of the outstanding work they've been doing So we would like those students there to help out in doing presenting their entertainment. And then we would begin the pageant with the Mr. Skills Talent presentation, and then the Miss Skills Talent presentation. And these will be in increments of 10 minutes per contestant. And then we'll have another following entertainment by the Filipino dance group. And so, as I stated, we are a very diverse population here at our district, and so we would like to be inclusive of all the cultures. And so we'll be asking the Filipino dance group to do an entertainment presentation here, and then followed by the cultural and talent presentation by both Mr. and Miss, again with the 10-minute increment for each contestant. And then we would like to invite all the local royalties who have probably competed already in the last month, which represents their individual schools who we're going to invite to this pageant, and we'll have a little fashion show, and as well as the other communities within the local district. And then we're planning to have a post-interview question on the 3rd, which is on Thursday, where we'll have a panel interview for each of the contestants, and we'll announce the results of that at 6:00, and then followed by all contestants having one prompt question. And then by 6:15, we'll announce who our new Mr. and Miss CCSD ambassador will be. And then we'll have a closing remark. We haven't asked you yet, but Ms. Cheryl George, if you would be able to represent on behalf of the board members to do our closing remarks. And then we'll follow our pageant presentation with cake and punch served outside of the Phil Thomas Center. And without further ado, I would like to have my co-partner here, Mia, help me out on the next couple pages of our presentation, and she will kind of just give you the outline of the pageant ambassador's job description.
Good evening again, Board President Wells, members of the board, and Superintendent Carlson, and the audience. I just want to go over the requirement and the criteria that we have selected to screen our applicants. Each applicant will have a contestant checklist that consists of an essay from 500 to 1,000 words, a letter of recommendation, a consent form, a waiver of responsibilities, signed ethic rules and regulations agreement. And all that information was provided upon the submission of our proposal. And our students will display certain criteria when they're crowned Mr. and Mrs. Ambassador. Each student will have the ability to express orally, ability to follow instructions, and show presentations at events and activities, ability to resolve conflict and confrontation, have fundamentals of self-identity, self-motivation, self-sufficiency, and personality. Each student will maintain academic standing, and as a student ambassador, these students will act as liaisons between the school staff at the district level to the current student body at the school level. And they'll serve as that connection to assist, ICO department-based projects for peers, develop appropriate communications between said students, families, administrative personnel about issues, and ensure that they're promptly handled and resolved. They'll utilize social outlets in order to spread word on awareness and activities and events as well. They'll gain experience in professional networking and utilize these networking skills to applied college and career readiness programs. They'll assist in excuse me, they'll assist in monthly planning committees to help create events that are being developed at the ICO level, such as the robotics coding camp and the indigenous camp. We do have monitored that peers like to, learn from their older groups. So Unity is a good example of that. We took secondary level students, and once they came back, they shared with their peers the experience of Unity, and that sparked an interest within our students to now become student council leaders and memberships. And we've had an increase in that area for student councils and student leaderships. That is what I wanted to share on the outlines. If Dr. Begay or Dr. Lopez want to add to our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like you to, whoever's got control here, to scroll back up to the first page. It showed, well, that's the first one. I need the second one, I guess. I wanted to see what the essay was, the topics of the essay. I went by so quick I didn't get to read it all.
Contribution as Mr. or Miss, I think it was something like that. It said somewhere like the contribution, what I would be the, what I would contribute. Or,
here we go.
The essay is going to be 500 to 1,000 words, and they'll be writing about the contributions they will make as the new Mr. and Mrs. CCSD ambassador.
Ambassador or princess? It says
It'd be ambassadors. We actually changed that.
That 6 bullet item, is that sign ethics or ethics?
Ethics. It's a good catch there, Zaskus.
That's ethics.
Oh,
ethics.
Find ethics rules and regulations.
Ethics, not ethics.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get all these corrected as we move forward with it. And the GPA requirement is going to be 2.0 or better. And and so we recommended the 5.7 photo traditional attire because we would like to post these individuals on our school website just to introduce who will be running in this pageant and just to get as much audience as we could as well too.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, Miss George has her hand up. Hang on just a minute, Miss Aspen. Cheryl, are you?
Oh, yes, thank you. The pageant takes place on November 14th, correct?
It'll be on November 4th. And as you all know, November is actually the Native American Heritage Month. And so we wanted to do the pageant at the beginning of the year so this individual could participate in all the different activities that will be going on within that month.
Okay, Miss Aspas.
Yeah, can you go over what the duties are?
What the question was to go over what?
As ambassadors, is that what you mean, Ms. Aspas?
Yes.
Okay. Would you do that, Mr. Russell?
I did.
I can quickly go over the rules or I'm sorry, about the roles and the description of the ambassador again. So the central duties and responsibilities that we've gathered is that students will assist ICO department in student-based projects for their peers at the school level. They'll develop appropriate lines of communication between students and families and administrative personnel to ensure issues are promptly handled and resolved. They'll utilize social outlets to share information about upcoming activities and raise student and
Board President or Superintendent Carlson.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that exactly mean?
What's that? Which part?
What was said about solving issues, or what? Can you give me an example of that? How that's supposed to work?
I'd have to ask one of the presenters to help me out on that.
This is Berlinda, Board President, if I may speak.
You may.
Okay, so that part really is referring to the ambassadors serving on the Equity Council as well. So they would be part of the current roles that our current student equity councils play in regards to how they're voicing their concerns now within their schools and environment in terms of the inequity that they experience or they see or they hear or observe. And so because that's currently what our Equity Council are currently doing, and in terms of the professional development they receive, it's in those areas too. It's more of having a voice, and so we can reword it to those terms if those words are not agreeable. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Miss Aspas?
No. I'm still unclear, and maybe I want to hear the superintendent's definition of that statement. And I'm seeing right here from
Dr. Lopez Martinez.
yeah.
Could you pull that chat back up with some slip? Do you want to say that?
Liaison to who and to guess I'm not
yeah. Good evening, Ms. Espas. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think perhaps the wording on the duties, we perhaps need to clarify that wording a little bit more as to how they're going to contribute. Is that sometimes students find it easier to speak to another student of their appropriate age level. Okay. And so these students would probably serve more as a liaison or a connection for that student to help assist them and say, you know, this is something I can point you into the right direction as to perhaps you may need to talk to the counselor, or you may need to talk to the nurse. So they're going to serve in that capacity for students that maybe can relate to them a little bit easier than they could with teachers. And it's not really to solve their problems or serve as counselors or anything like that, but it's more as a support for these students, and also to support Mia and Donovan said, any of the activities that we do have in ICO, because they are part of the Equity Council and they have been going to all these leadership conferences, that they've built on those skill sets, and so that they can take that to the school and help promote that in the buildings also, and help develop perhaps community relations, community activities, things like that, that we can work with in collaboration with the teachers and the building principal, and try to tighten those community connections. And so that's part of the way that they'll be serving in their role when they're chosen. Does that clarify it a little bit more, Ms. Aspis?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I can see now what you're aiming for in these individuals, but as far as after they receive, a concern from a fellow student, where do they take that concern?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, Ms. Aspis. You just said it. Really, you summarized it correctly. And we will reword this to represent exactly what we've just discussed.
Okay. I don't know if this was said already, but I would like that concern to be taken straight to the superintendent. And I guess I just really looking out for the students' sake, as far as to be put, I guess in a way, in a line of fire, and I rather not stress or not make this an enjoyable thing, and have that conversation with the superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Miss George.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to just recommend that the ambassadors be involved with the School Health Advisory Committee. I think bringing all the ideas and concerns and questions from their fellow students about school climate in their schools would be a good direction for them to place those concerns or ideas at the School Health Advisory Committee, because it's open to anybody and all stakeholders, and as well as the Equity Committee that is with the ICO. That's all my recommendation, to include them on there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent recommendation. Ms. George will certainly take a note of that and include that. Thank you.
I just wanted to add a little bit more to I've taken the students on 2 trips, one to the Unity and then to Sparks of Possibility. And it was a new idea that I brought up with the individuals that had attended these professional development trainings. And I try to treat the students like an adult myself too, because I know when I go on a professional development training, what can I bring back from that to help my peers and help my colleagues, and to make our district a better district as well too. And so this was one of the first things that the students suggested that they wanted to work on, was to have an ambassador to travel with. And it seems like most of the time when someone's an ambassador or wearing a crown, they're given that chance to just automatically speak and talk and advocate for their platform. And as to someone who is just raising their hand, but it seems like it's always like a recognition right there is when I'm an ambassador, they're dressed and nicely and with the crown and all that, they get that opportunity to actually speak on behalf of their representation. So I'm really pushing for leadership for our students and pushing for them to be advocates for their student voices in their schools as well too. And so, but I just wanted to add that to this proposal, and if there will stand for any more questions if there are any more.
Ms. Askey has a question.
Not really a question, but more of a comment. I can understand where
Ms. Askey has a comment.
Where board member Aspis has concern. I also have those concerns. I think this is an excellent opportunity for our students to gain the leadership skills and be that voice. But I also don't want it to be burdensome. I hope that throughout the whole process that there are set parameters, set boundaries. Don't want it to be something stressful, putting too much on the students to have it, there's ways of developing leadership skills and advocacy, being the voice for your peers without having that additional stress. There's certain things that should always be reported to the adults in the school, not to the ambassadors. I think there's issues I had with confidentiality, the right steps to take. I mean, those things develop with time, and to place those kind of things on the students, I don't think is really appropriate. There should be those really clear parameters set. That would be my recommendation, because adolescents, the whole development in that during that time is difficult as it is. To add other things to it makes it just a little more challenging for our students. And this should be something that should be enjoyable, also allow for growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another comment, board member.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Vice President Haskey. You really made some sense there, better than I did. But you opened up another can of worms, for me, and it's been no big secret that our students are facing a lot, and one of the most important ones is our mental health, and I think yes, we're gonna have to really clarify and make certain that it is understood by the whole student body, and that what these individuals are exactly for. And I hate for that scenario, and it's probably presuming a lot, but then again, back to the numbers of mental health, and I hope that that's not shared, and a student finds confidence, or that in this ambassador, and shares something like that, and then nothing said, or there's I just see that as that would be horrible, and on top of that, liability. It may be a liability issue, and so yes, things are going to have to be very clarified, and and just going on. I mean, there's a lot of issues going on, and so I think with again, I want this this person to enjoy being that person. And but you know, that I hate for them to you know, be the one to transfer negative energy to, and then, you know, have them, you know, be in that position. So this is really difficult to talk about, you know, and trying to remain positive, and but we need to make sure that all of those things are clear.
Thank you, Ms. George.
Oh, yes. My just suggestion is to make sure that we reiterate the number one priority of say something, see something to all the students. It's all their responsibility and the staff for them to report any kind of mental health or any kind of emergency that arises that the students become aware of, to report that, see something, say something that we have within the district, and to our safety advisors and to the principals, and then also to our social workers who are all in the schools. And then also, um, I, I can't remember if we have the natural helpers program, but if we did, that would be a good program to initiate to the students, especially ambassadors or leadership students like in ROTC, or any students who are in leadership, student council, whatnot. Just suggestions, but thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Russell and Ms.
Ciences. Thank you guys, and thank you for your time. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Number 8, request for approval of gifts and donations.
Good evening, board members. I'm Gunnery Sergeant Benali. I'm the head instructor out at Shiprock High School. Been here this is my 5th year starting. The reason why I'm here is we got a donation, a monetary amount for $50 from the Daughters of American Revolution. It's a little organization. Basically, its membership is service organization for women who are directly descended from a person involved in the United States efforts towards independence. It's a nonprofit group. They promote education and patriotism. I'm sorry, good evening, board and superintendents. Back in September, on September 17th, it was a Saturday, we were actually requested by the organization to present the flags for the, they call it a Bells Across America for Constitution Week there in Shiprock. So they requested us about 6 months ago, and we finally came down and we did the color guard for this organization as they did this Constitution Week there at Shiprock, right in that park. My students went down. There was 4 students that went, and we presented the colors right before the little program that they had, and that was pretty much it. And the representative there, Miss Castle, she actually donated a $50 check, and she said, "Hey, thank you for everything that you're doing, everything that we've done. We've dealt with them. They have come to our awards night, and she and other organizations actually have been very grateful for the things that we do." So that's the reason why I'm here, and it's just a donation that they gave to us.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
So next time there's a form to fill out, it should be typed. Thank you.
Could you say that again, Christina? I didn't understand what you said. You broke up or something.
I can't say it in Navajo.
I couldn't understand it anyway.
I was just saying next time there's a form filled out, it needs to be typed.
Oh, okay.
Understandable.
Thank you.
And if I could, board members, I also, just real quick before I go, I know Chief Officer Laribas came on earlier for a trip to Washington, D.C. Apparently my paperwork did not make it in time for this board. So I just want to let you guys know it's going to be the same thing next week. I'll be presenting what I need to do for Shiprock High School. Everything's pretty much going to be the same. So I will see the board again next week for the same trip.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. You're welcome.
Type it.
I think it's to be archived for record keeping sake.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Yazzie, physical inventory report.
Thank you. Good evening, President Wells, Superintendent Carlson, President Wells, members of the board. Presenting to you the physical inventory report for our fixed assets here at the school district. This is for the inventory concluded at the end of last fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. We have a listing of all the assets found here in our books. These are tangible assets that have a longer lifespan than 1 year, such as things that are purchased here in the school district. You have a listing here of 175 pages. And so we are requesting the board's approval of the assets. They are categorized by where they are located at. A tag number is listed for each of the assets along with the serial number and description of it and the source of funding for it, and when the inventory was done on the particular asset there.
I have a question for you. The fund or the dollar amount over there, the totals, that was the purchase price, I'm assuming, is that correct?
Correct. So Board President, that is correct. That was the purchase price when the asset was put into the inventory.
Okay.
So I believe the grand total of the assets and in our inventory is $345,000,000, $565,537.04.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So that is the purchase price, the one that's listed, or is that the depreciated value based on the years? Is that what you said?
So to my understanding, that is the actual cost, the historical cost when the asset was purchased on the right side.
And then do you have a listing of what it actually is with the depreciation and the life of the item?
That list is still being compiled.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Okay. Item K. We got it.
There is no K on here. Goes I to J.
No. There's a K on there.
But there is a J. We didn't do J.
I.
Did we not do J?
Oh, J, yeah. We haven't done J.
He got
Okay.
that pulled up.
You said K.
I did. Physical inventory. Procurement over. Item J, thank you.
So the next thing on the agenda is procurement over 60,000. We have a list of procurement items totaling over 60,000. There is a total of 13 items. You have CDW government. It's for our information technology. Hold on a second. Let me get that really quick. It's for the purchase of devices and it's for purchase of renewal subscription for the MacBooks that our district has purchased. We have cooperative educational services. It's a construction project that is going on within the Kirtland Middle School. It's a corridor refurbish. We have purchase of vehicles.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Number 12, that's more than one vehicle, right? It's not just one Ford Explorer that's listed at $103,000. How many vehicles is that? Because it says the way it looks, it reads as just one vehicle.
So number 12.
Number 12.
Is there a quantity of vehicles that were purchased? Hopefully not just one.
So we go down to page number 19. It lists the quantity. It says 3 vehicles, 3 Ford Escapes are being purchased. So we did include the copies of the actual purchase orders in the report as well too.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And then just going down the list, there's just various construction projects, vehicle purchases, housing projects that are here in this particular report here. Any other questions?
Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, Mr. Yazzie. Item K.
Thank you, President Wells. So item K, you have the activity distribution list. This is for checks and purchases out of our activity funds for last month, totaling $5,506.41. And then we have the operational disbursement listing. This is the listing of all the purchases purchased last month, totaling $2,972,368.88. And then our outstanding check listing, I believe the one that we're looking at right now is for the operational account, I believe. This is for last month, all the check listings. Let's see. This one's totaling $3,078,389.86. This is our outstanding check listing for our activity funds. The totaling of all the outstanding checks is $16,918.65. The next thing on the agenda is the general funds expenditures report for our general funds, 11,000 to 23,000. Last month, there was a total of $4,019,851.20 spent. And then the next set of reports are the expenditures coming from our grant accounts. Grant accounts range from 24,000 to 29,000 funds. Got the right one. And this one totaling last month for expenditures coming out of that particular account are $1,789,628.50. And this is for our expenditures from capital outlay and debt service funds. Last month, totaling $6,500,212.65. So now we're moving on to the revenues generated from our general funds, 11,000 to 23,000. From last month, we received some funds from the ad valorem and gas taxes. I believe we look at the report, we have $482.53 for ad valorem taxes, and oil and gas taxes, $129.44. So totaling for all the operational funds, from 11,000 to 23,000, we have $5,283,481.61. And revenues generated from our grants account, 24,000 to 29,000. We generated $814,415.55 of revenue last month. And revenues from capital outlay and debt service funds. We received from our SB9 for ad valorem taxes, oil and gas revenue, $2,447.94, totaling also for the whole month, $448,993.97. And we're moving on to
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is we have the general counsel on?
We do not.
No.
Okay, well, I'll just make a statement in regards to the question in respects to the ad valorem and obviously the closure of San Juan Generating Station. I doubt very seriously the number is going to be what it is today in the very near future. I'm just going to ask her specifically what that money was if I'm not mistaken, there was a report that came out in 2019 that it was approximately close to $3.5 million a year. Its effect on Central Consolidated School District. So just let everybody know it has real consequences and a real effect on the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Young.
Thank you, sir. We have our budget journal entries. 25-page report of all the entries done within the district for last month, totaling, balancing out at $3,968,358. And so this is a invoice journal detail listing report of all the invoices that were expended last month. I just wanted to go ahead and review the report again. I think there was just a comment made at the last board meeting. I wanted to see if this report is a little bit more presentable. We went through the reports in the the iVision system to see if we can come up with a check listing report. And I think there was the last report we showed like this. The last page showed, I think it had like Zuni carried over in the bottom. And so if you look at this one on the bottom, it actually summarizes the total of all the purchases that were done last month with the district. And it kind of summarizes the grand total of all the expenditure or all the expenses at the end, and it does a nice job of tying them all up to all the account numbers at the end as well too. So I think this is 343 pages. So it does list the grand total, and it lists all the funds that all the accounts hit for last month too as well. And then on page 343 on that report, you go up 343, it lists the grand total of all the invoices that were expended last month right there. Okay, any questions? Okay, moving on to the Johnson O'Malley listing for expenses coming out of the Johnson O'Malley Fund last month, $24,598.18. Any questions over section K?
I don't see any. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the budget adjustment requests. We have here showing a, let me go find my copy here. A transfer bar coming out of Fund 24153. This a transfer bar. It is to move funds from salary expense account so that we could have professional development for teachers and staff. And this one is a budget adjustment request. It's an increase bar for $172,488. It's an increase bar for a initial award that we received for the Engine Education Formula Grant for Fund 25184. And it's basically just setting up the initial budget. And so this one is a initial budget bar for Fund 27202. It's for funds we received for an open science expansion initiative. It's to purchase curriculum kits for students in science materials and to provide some stipends, I believe, for teachers as listed. We have a initial budget set up. This is for at-risk funding that we received this school year. It is for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's for 8 schools for Eva B. Stokely, Mesa Elementary School, Nash City Elementary, Newcomb Elementary, Newcomb High School, Newcomb Middle School, Ojo Elementary, and Sabatai Middle School. They receive at-risk funding to improve academic and behavioral intervention programs for students. Totaling for all of those schools is $908,391. So we have a bar to set up initial budget. It is giving us budget authority to improve parking lot improvements, pavement. It's coming from the New Mexico Department of Highway Transportation, Fund 28120 for $59,860. And the next one is a grad instruction. It is to set up an initial budget. It's carry forward balance from I believe the prior year. It's money coming in from the grads program. There was a $10,000 carry forward balance out of the Fund 28190. We have an increase bar for the preschool IDA Fund 24109. This is also a carryover balance award. It is totaling $94,030. And we have a bar to set up initial budget for funds coming from the CDC Healthy Schools Grant, Fund 24130. I believe they're using this to provide professional development to enhance the CDC training here at the school district, and this is to set up budget authority for this school year. Any questions regarding the section L?
I have no question.
No.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Yazzie, thank you.
Thank you, Board President, Superintendent Carlson, and members of the board.
Number 5, discussion and possible action regarding board nominations and position for board membership on board committees. A, board nomination for audit committee.
We're doing that right now. Discussion and possible action.
When does it become a nomination?
I thought it was just voluntary. Right.
I don't know. It says on here board nomination. I'm going by what's listed.
I nominate myself for audit.
Is there a second? I'll second it.
Are we allowed to do that? Because it says possible action. Are we just doing nominations? And then we do that one.
I talked to Sharon about it. She says, yeah, you nominate and approve and
okay.
how many per for each one of them?
How many?
One for each or
two for each one?
Two for each.
And can we overlap? Like we can sit on two different committees?
I'm assuming we did.
Okay. Okay, I agree.
We don't need to nominate.
Okay, I nominate Miss Aspis for audit committee. Is that better? And I nominate myself too.
I just said that out of spite, but you know, I'd like to stay on the audit, but we don't need to nominate. We haven't done that. We just volunteer who can do what.
That's how we did it in the past.
Okay.
Either that or make a motion to keep it the same.
You can do that too.
Okay.
But we're not.
I was just going by what was written on the paper.
Yeah, we don't need to nominate. We just need to volunteer who wants to do what.
Okay, you're volunteering then for the
Audit.
For the audit committee?
Yes. Ms. Aspis and I are volunteering ourselves for the audit committee.
Okay. Next one, finance committee. These are, what's the difference in the audit committee and the finance committee?
One solely just speaks to the audit, and finance would be different. That would be what we went over, right?
That sounds would be much more entailed, many different things.
You would look at all.
I would rather do the audit.
You're late.
You're late. There's only two.
Superintendent Carlson,
Yes, sir.
would you like me to help with the kind of the definition of the two?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we're stuck.
So to my understanding, thank you, board president, members of the board, Superintendent Carlson. To my understanding, the finance committee works in collaboration with the superintendent and the business manager of the district, and they work together with the board members that are nominated and appointed. We're supposed to schedule quarterly meetings or monthly meetings. It's a discretion of the board as well to meet together to discuss the actual financial status of the district and to review the reports together. And I believe it also involves kind of planning relating to expenses with the district too. And I believe that's what that particular committee entails there.
In the past, we've volunteered for either one, and but there's times when both can't make it. So then I think Sharon has done a good job in trying to reach out to other board members to cover. So, and the same way with the finance.
Who's currently now part of the finance committee?
I have no idea.
Which committee are you on?
I'm not.
You're not on any of these?
You know, I don't even think we made that. I think Sheldon was a part of the finance and perhaps Phil. I don't even think we had anybody volunteer, or that subject never came up.
Board President, this is Sharon. The last time we had these nominations for the audit, finance, and strategic planning was back in May of 2020.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then during the pandemic, and I guess that's when everything stopped and we just didn't renew it every year.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll volunteer for finance committee, only if I get to get off after.
Board member
Oh.
or Secretary George has her hand raised.
Miss George. Thank you.
I'll volunteer for the strategic planning. Can I do that?
Yeah.
How often do they meet?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I was on that committee, so I don't know.
You were on the audit committee before? Mm-hmm. That's not fair. You gotta take turns.
I'll volunteer to be with you on the finance committee. Is that
okay? All right.
So I'll sit on two committees.
And here I say you can, if you don't attend that, I can attend it and vice versa.
She'll be an alternate. And that leaves Mr. Montoya for
I'll
strategic
volunteer
planning,
with Cheryl to be on the strategic plan.
Okay. Well, what about Mr. Montoya?
You didn't say you volunteered anything. Sharon, can we do this way then?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
President Wells?
Yes, ma'am.
Not to confuse our audience or new board members, but really the the validation or whatever that you're calling on Sharon Ray to do this shouldn't be. That's where our board attorney should come in, and you should be asking her those questions, or that yes or no.
Being she's not up here, I'll call tomorrow and ask. Will that work?
I'm just saying for the future that happens.
Right, I understand, but
yeah,
I'll still call and clarify that. Make sure I'm not stepping out of line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Remind me to call. Okay. Discussion number 6. Items for October 18, 2022 regular school board meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Montoya.
like an update on the graduate profile program. Haven't heard nothing about it or from it or any conversations in regards to what is transpiring with that program.
You'll have to tell me the name of the program again.
Graduate profile.
Graduate profile. Okay, thank you.
The other is also getting some clarity in respect to the ICO and its importance, especially regarding addressing Yazi Martinez, because one of the things that I've heard recently, and hopefully I'm going to find out more Monday, but that the state is looking at pawning off the responsibility of Yazi Martinez onto the districts. So I'd like to know where we are with that department and what is transpiring. And also to those that were in attendance at that legislative educational study committee, a couple of districts didn't seem to think that they had a problem with those issues, and if I'm not mistaken or misspeaking, that they didn't seem to understand why it needed to be done. Did you get that, Mr. Carlson?
Yes, sir. It was just a comment though, right?
Well, again, that's why I was wanting also not just the graduate profile, but the ICO, where we are, how that's working out. Because again, like I said, from what I've heard, the state is looking at pawning that responsibility off wholly and solely onto the districts to address it.
They're definitely asking districts to explain where they are and what they're doing. So, and I don't know about fully pawning them off, but they are definitely, there's definitely some accountability on putting it on the district. So yeah, I agree with you there.
All righty. Thank you.
I have, I haven't heard anything about the what was it, looked at the application for the PFSA for Newcomb Elementary, if I could still get that. I made the request, I think, 2 meetings ago. And then also, I guess, an update in regards to the land lease. The status. And then
You're talking about the land of GBA.
Mm-hmm. And then also I guess for the community, our constituents, if we can get the update in regards to the resolutions that we've been supporting in regards to impact aid and to the other one, the power trying to think of power plants, the closures, if those can be kind of a small report done. I think there was 2. I think just a small, maybe just an update, because there's a lot of advocacy being done currently, and on the district's part, and I would like a small report done on that so that the district, our constituents in our community is well aware of what we're doing to help our community. And lastly, it's not to be, can be, but I like to do a shout out to Newcomb Elementary School, and I will butcher this, but they got first place in royalties and best of show overall out of all the floats during the Shiprock Parade, the Northern Navajo Fair. The royalties, Mr. and Miss Sisnedish. I'm sorry. I think I really butchered that. And it's Braxton Thompson, 4th grader, and Nivea Sipai, 5th grade. So kudos to you all for getting first place in royalties and best of show overall. That's it.
Okay. Who else?
Me.
Board President,
Yes.
can we have a report on the emergency drills, and then also any emergencies like lockdown, shelter in place, or evacuation that have taken place since August? What schools?
You want to report on what schools have done that?
Yes, or that have had an emergency lockdown or shelter in place.
Secretary George, you mean since the very beginning of the year, like the beginning of August till now? Or since?
No, I know August they have the required 4, but anything after from September till current.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Aspas, you were.
May I now?
You may.
Okay, along the lines of what Mr. Montoya was bringing up about impact aid, yes, we need to be caught up on that information. I believe at that the committee meetings that were held at Von Wilson, the legislative committee meetings, it was said there by 2 individuals, the one lawyer involved in the impact aid litigation, and no, I'm sorry, not the impact aid, the Yazi Martinez, but that is all last I heard, which was probably a month ago that those meetings took place, but they said that it was going back to court. And so and then what Mr. Montoya brought up about turning all that over to the districts. Yes, I think it's something that we need to really find out and what the court determined, if it did go to court, but I believe what they were saying is that it was going back to court to find out how, if we were, not we, but PED was addressing it, but now PED's throwing it back to the district. So really want to find out more on what's going on there. And recent incident, well, I'm not going to say incident. I understand that from Bloomfield school, they got hit with a virus, hoof mouth virus or disease, and which involved pretty much most of the um, athletics, and so actually the football team, and so this coming week they are supposed to be competing against Kirtland, and so
Tomorrow night.
I think with I was really glad that because I heard back from a parent today and asking what was going on and if that was COVID or monkeypox, and I said no, I think you guys were informed of the hoof mouth disease, but apparently the school Kirtland High had reached out to parents to let them know, and I really appreciate that transparency, because these days we can't take any kind of outbreak lightly anymore. So I'm very appreciative of whoever that was, Principal Benedict or the athletic director or the coach or whoever, but that they made that announcement to the parents to let them know. But and that's was the feedback I got from a parent, and was telling me, "Did you know that this happened?" And I said, "Wow." And I was very surprised, but I'm glad that that took place, and that needs to be understood with all our schools, and that message relayed to the district athletic person, so that we can't take these things too lightly, and when once they hear of it, that the parents should be told, and it's up to them if they want to let their student compete or not.
I know there was an announcement today from the high school about the foot and mouth disease. So I know that Dr. Benedict is aware of it. I don't know any other anything else that was being said about it.
Yes, that's I would like that to be understood by our athletic people, and also the groups, clubs that we have, to make sure we don't become the super spreader.
I heard in one of my meetings that I'm trying to find more information about it, about our procurement, and there's supposed to be a cap, something that I dealt with when I was working for the district, $1,300, and I've got to call into I wrote that down and I can't remember now. Anyway, the district has a policy. I don't know. I'm trying to research it and see if it's in the district policy, but they have $3,500 maximum before you have to have 3 bids. And I would like to, that needs to be raised the,
Peas and chickens.
if that is a policy, hopefully I can have that research by Tuesday. I want to see that raised because with the prices of everything going up, that's way too low. I think the state cap is 20,000 and the federal is 60. But I want to put on for the next meeting to have that raised to allow purchases without having to go looking for 3 bids for such a low amount.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to add one more, if possible.
Go ahead.
An update from the Student Support Services. I'll get with the superintendent on the specifics.
Anything else? Ms. George? Ms. George, you have your hand up.
Oh, yes, I was just referring back to that. What is that? The hand, foot, and mouth. Oh, that was just discussed. I know that they have to be fever-free for at least 24 hours, and it's passed by the blisters on the hands, mouth, and feet. And so it's highly contagious in that way, and it's spread through cough, sneeze, and bodily fluids, and especially with the popping of the blisters on the pus. So we can get the health office nurses working with the athletic department. That would be good to get presentations done in the schools and then also with the athletes. Mr. Superintendent, thank you.
Is there anything else? Thank you, Ms. George. On to the next item. I will entertain a motion to dismiss, to adjourn, excuse me.
I will motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourned. Ms. Aspas?
Yes.
Ms. Haskey?
Yes.
Ms. George?
Yes.
Ms. Montoya?
Yes.
Myself, yes. This meeting is adjourned.
One thing real quick, just for the board, I'll be doing the CES conference on Monday and Tuesday. So I'll have Mr. Peter Deswood III sitting in for me on Tuesday evening.
Okay.
Ms. Haskey, I'm gonna have to get with you. Do you want them?